All right, here we go. We have actor and singer Jason Weaver in the house.
In the building. Here, VladTV. What's up, man?
Everything good, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming in.
I appreciate you having me, man. I was telling you before we started, I'm a huge fan of the show. Been keeping up with you for quite some time now, and I think what you're doing is great, man. Just being able to bridge the gap between the culture and with mainstream audiences and with people that want to have a better understanding as to what it's really about versus what they kind of see off of face value or just on the surface. I think what your platform, what your show has allowed everybody to do is just to get a deeper kind of feeling for what it is that all of us that contribute creatively, like what this is all about for us and what it means. So thank you, man.
Well, thank you for watching.
Absolutely.
I mean, really, it's people like yourself that kind of keep this whole thing going. So
I appreciate it, man.
you being a viewer. So, you've had some iconic moments throughout your career. So I want to get into the whole backstory first.
Okay.
And kind of lead up to it.
Okay.
So you grew up outside of Chicago?
Outside of Chicago, South Holland, Illinois, to be exact. I was born in Harvey, Illinois, and grew up mostly in like Dalton, South Holland. Went to Thornwood High School. Went to McKinley. That was like my, that was my upbringing. Absolutely.
Okay, and you grew up with a single mom.
Yes.
You had siblings?
No.
Only child.
Only child.
Just like me.
All right, dig. All right.
The world revolves around us.
Absolutely. That's what I believe too. I'm
As
like,
it should.
Man, y'all can't run nothing without us.
That's
like,
right.
Man.
That's right. I understand.
Yeah.
And I guess your father wasn't really around.
No, unfortunately, it was one of those situations kind of typical of 80s families, like late 70s, 80s families, and unfortunately in the black community there were a lot of households like that where you had single mothers and raising the kids and for some people they had interactions with their fathers or minimal interaction. In my case it was like kind of minimal interaction, but me and my father, that being said, there was never any like tension, or there was never any I don't know, feeling that we didn't love each other or anything. Like, I knew my dad loved me. I loved him. Still do, although he's no longer here, with us. But we had a good relationship while he's here. It's just unfortunate. Things weren't able to come together the way that they should have.
Okay, so when you say that your father wasn't really around, is it one of those where you can count the number of times you spoke to him?
Yeah. I'd probably say there's probably been, on occasion, total we've talked and been together maybe like 10 times, 10, 15 times. Again, it wasn't like how it is now where parents, single parents or families that are split, they recognize the importance of no matter what, putting a child first. Like, I'm a single father, and me and my son's mother, although we had a tumultuous and somewhat turbulent relationship in the very beginning, when we decided to part ways, we eventually came to the conclusion that for the betterment of the child and for our son's development and for him to, kind of have a positive outlook on what a family is supposed to be, we had to work together and meet each other in the middle. Unfortunately, in the 80s, like back then, man, there wasn't a lot of that kind of conversation going on, where people even wanted to talk about going to family therapy or, and especially in black households, like therapy and that kind of thing is just something that's been recently introduced and embraced. But back then, like, family therapy and talking things over and trying to come to resolutions, that wasn't a typical kind of thing that was done, unfortunately.
Well, there was also the crack era.
True. Although nobody in my family nobody was on drugs or anything like that.
Okay, so that wasn't the reason.
Oh, no. It was simply because, the relationship didn't work out.
Okay.
And then again, when emotions are involved, people just didn't work out and they weren't able to meet each other in the middle in that regard. But again, with my dad, I know that he loved me when we did communicate. And when we did interact with each other, it was like love. It was all good.
Well, yeah, I just interviewed Jalen Rose, and he never actually met his father. Your father wasn't just a basketball player, but he was a first-round draft pick.
Correct.
But you guys had never met. What exactly happened there?
So my father, my biological father, Jimmy Walker, was the number one pick in the 1967 NBA draft. Just had Earl the Pearl Monroe on Jalen and Jacoby recently, who was also in the draft.
Yep.
Love Clyde Frazier, who was also in that draft. And so he and my mom weren't clearly in a relationship. And so when I was born, it was more so I was used to it's almost like you don't miss what you never had.
Okay.
So being the youngest of four, having a different father from my brothers and sisters, and growing up, like you said, in Detroit, unfortunately, it seemed like it was commonplace for there to be a single parent in the home. So I didn't feel like I was missing anything.
People don't communicate with their family for various reasons. You know, I think
Yeah.
in his sense, he said that his father felt kind of embarrassed
Okay.
to sort of try to come in at the
Later
tail
on.
end and so forth. So he just kind of kept his.
I can relate to that because there was and this is something that I gotta live with, and something that I to this day, at my age, I feel horrible about. But I was young, and I was a teenager. Kind of had a little chip on my shoulder when my father attempted to reach out to me. I didn't know at the time my father was dying,
Mm.
and it had been a few years since we had spoken, and I just began to kind of get into my adolescence. And you know how it is, man, when you're in that stage and your hormones everywhere, and you kind of feel like you're a man already and you got all the answers and there's nothing anybody can tell you. And so my dad just had a last attempt to try to, show that he was there and to, reconnect and have some kind of relationship. He reached out through some friends of mine while I was doing like an in-store signing in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it like, oh man, like, whatever, man. I'll holler at him whenever. You know what I'm saying? I'm out here promoting this record and, just being a dick, honestly. And just didn't know at the time how sick my father was. And then the next time I heard anything about my father was when my mother informed me, a month later that he had passed away. And yeah, that's something that I regret because, I wish we could have at least come to a resolution before him making his transition that allowed us to have that kind of closure with each other. And I guess that's why now, me, even as a father, I tend to try to like overcompensate as a father, doing anything and everything I can with my son because I feel like so much was missed out with me and my dad. You feel me?
Yeah. So you basically regret not having that last conversation with him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's something I'll live with until I leave here. But I love him, and he knew that I loved him. It was just, I was a dick, man. I was a kid. I was feeling myself, I don't know.
Well, your mother was actually a singer.
Yeah,
She was part of the group Kitty and the Haywoods.
that's right. Damn, Vlad, you be on your shit, man. Yes, yeah,
So she has some experience with the whole entertainment industry
yeah,
already.
yeah.
So at one point you wanted to get into entertainment yourself.
hmm
So what was like the first few steps that went into that?
The first few steps, when I expressed the interest to want to get involved, she had reached out to a friend of hers at Burrell Communications, which was advertising firm in Chicago, Illinois, headed up and founded by Tom Burrell. And Burrell Communications was pretty much the first black ad agency that would tailor and gear commercials and radio ads to the black audience. So they were the first ones to get the McDonald's campaigns, Coca-Cola, anything national and anything big, or any corporation that was trying to market or advertise their products to the black community in the 70s or the 80s. 9 times out of 10, they hired Burrell to construct and build those ads.
Mm.
So Burrell was headquartered in Chicago. And so essentially what Burrell did was employ and provide jobs to musicians, singers, and upcoming actors throughout the city of Chicago that were looking to enter into the game. And so a lot of us started off doing commercials. Carl Weathers was one of the actors, Carl Weathers that played Apollo Creed
Right.
and Rocky. Like, he was one of the people to benefit from that. I think Minnie Riperton, like one of her, I think she had done like a couple spots for them like early on in her career. Um, and yeah, and one of the families that they helped tremendously was mine. It helped to usher in help kickstart my career. My cousin Tricky Stewart, who went on to become a Grammy Award winning music producer.
Right.
My other cousin, Ku Carell, 5-time Grammy Award winner, who's like the #1 vocal producer in the world. All of us, my cousin Lainey Stewart, all of us came from that background, working alongside with Burrell, working in the jingle business and advertising in Chicago, doing commercials and spots. Yeah.
Okay, so you started doing commercials first,
Yep.
and then you started getting some television around 1990, I guess.
Yeah, my first role was a movie called The Long Walk Home with Whoopi Goldberg and Sissy Spacek, and it was critically acclaimed, but commercially it didn't do really that well. It was like, it was a period piece. It was about the Montgomery bus boycott.
Okay.
It was beautifully written, beautifully shot, well directed. The acting in it was just tremendous, in my personal opinion, even now looking back in retrospect. But it just didn't connect with audiences like at that time. But it was an honor to be a part of that and to work with Whoopi and to work with Sissy Spacek. Ving Rhames, that was one of his first films. He played my dad in it.
Okay.
Erica Alexander. No, that was a great film to be a part of. So yeah.
Okay, and you also did Brewster's Place.
Yeah,
Brewster Place.
Yeah, the television series, not the
Television
miniseries.
Right.
Because a lot of people get that confused. Yeah, I did that with Oprah. Oprah with a lot of other people in Chicago, people of color in Chicago. Man, she provided a lot of opportunities, man, for black actors during that time when she had Harpo Studios up on the West Side. She had Brewster Place going. So a lot of the people that were cast were like local hires, and even of course members of the crew. But she employed a lot of people. Oprah looked out.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot how long Oprah's been acting. I mean,
Since what, Color Purple?
Yeah.
And that was like 85.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been putting in work.
Yeah, Oprah's
okay. So then you end up doing the Jacksons movie.
Yep.
The Jacksons, An American Dream.
Yep.
It was a miniseries on TV.
It was a miniseries. Yeah.
And that was really our first look into the Jackson story and the Michael Jackson story in particular.
Right.
That's when you got to see Joe Jackson as a tyrant, and because before then it was just totally a mystery.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, like in 1990, Michael Jackson was the biggest thing on earth.
Damn right.
What album was out during that time? Was that?
It was Dangerous.
Dangerous.
I remember. Yeah, it was definitely Dangerous.
Okay, so you get cast to play young Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
How much of an honor was that?
And insane. I mean, even when people years later now, I'm 40 years old. You know what I mean? Like, but to be given an opportunity like that at such a young age, and for it to still have the ability to resonate and like have that kind of long lasting appeal to where you have not only the generation that I grew up with during that period, but even a younger generation who were introduced to it through their parents, who now love it, and to portray, such an iconic figure like Michael was just probably one of the most rewarding experiences of my life and career. Because it did so much for me, as far as like growing as an artist and just growing as a person, understanding like how to deal with celebrity and fame, all of that within that American dream experience was just a major growth period for me, man, and just so rewarding in so many different ways. So shout out to the Jackson family. Shout out to Michael. Rest in peace. I really, really appreciate them for giving me that opportunity, man.
Well, I mean, I think every 10-year-old black kid on the planet wanted to play Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
In a big budget TV series like that.
Hell yeah, bro.
How did you get that role?
Audition. I auditioned like everyone else. Now I will say I was given the heads up that the miniseries was going to be, or that they were going to be casting maybe like a couple weeks prior, because my cousin Laney Stewart, who was producing a lot of stuff at like Sony and MCA at the time. He had a manager, Ruth Carson, who was a rep for DePass Entertainment, Suzanne DePass's company. And so Ruth was coming to Chicago and just hanging in the studio and happened to mention in conversation that they were going to be doing this miniseries about the Jacksons. So I was like, oh man, that sounds cool. It sounds exciting. She was like, yeah, when I hear about it, or when I know that they're casting, I'll inform you and your mom, and, you guys holler at your agent and see if you could submit. So sure enough, we did. Like a couple weeks later, when they officially started taking submissions, we threw my name in the hat, through my agency, the Geddes Agency, with Elizabeth and Ann Geddes. I put myself on tape in downtown Chicago. I sang two of the Jackson songs. I think they wanted like ABC and I Want You Back. They wanted to hear that, and they wanted you to read the sides. And so I did that. They sent the tape out here to LA, and this was before, the internet and all that stuff. So it's literally like FedExing and UPSing and messengering stuff. So it took maybe about, I'd say, a week and a half, 2 weeks for them to get back to us. But when they got back to us, they were like, yo, we want to, bring Jason out for a callback. And the rest just kind of transpired from there.
Right, because this role requires someone not just to act,
Yeah.
but to sing
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Now, how well could you sing Michael Jackson songs leading up to that?
I mean, being honest, the only Michael songs I knew were the songs that I grew up with. The Thriller joints, and like Bad and all of that. So as my mother was rehearsing with me and teaching me, giving me the history of the Jackson 5, I'm learning all of that as I'm learning these songs. So I'm like, oh, so Mike, like I knew about the Jackson 5 cartoon, and because that would come on after school or something. But other than that, I didn't know that Michael Jackson was like even a huge big star like back then as a kid. So I was, just developing a whole newfound respect for him and his family as I was going along. And I mean, just thankfully for me, I just had a mom that understood what it took to be able to prepare for something like that. Because she was a professional. So she was able to provide some real guidance and wisdom for me to where I can do this and execute it the right way and come into it with like the level of discipline and focus that I needed.
I mean, can you still do the songs?
Can I still do them?
Yeah.
Hell no, not those.
Nah,
man. Because, I mean, even then, bro, that shit was high. Like, I remember...
Because you have somewhat of a high-pitched voice.
I have a natural high-pitched voice.
But not like a Michael Jackson high-pitched voice.
Nah. And then even with his speaking voice...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It was like... His was like natural, like a natural low. He just was unique in a sense.
So his voice was more low?
Yeah. I mean, when I would hear him talk in like... whether it was seeing him or in front of him or in interviews, and when he would talk low, it was like, to me, it sounded like a regular. He had more bass in his voice than I do. I mean, and I know that probably sounds crazy to a lot of people, but he really did.
Okay, so was that series done with the Jackson family?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were heavily involved in it.
Oh, yeah, no. Jermaine Jackson was the executive producer alongside with his wife at the time, Margaret Maldonado. Michael had to pick who played him. So
he picked you.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody that played Michael Jackson, Michael 1, 2, and 3, Michael had to personally select. Joe was there. Mrs. Jackson was there. Mrs. Jackson and Joe and Jermaine and Margaret were at my last audition before they sent the tape out to LA. So they were there, like encouraging me, and they kind of had to give their final approval to even send the tape to Michael. So no, they were heavily involved because they wanted to make sure that their story was told from their perspective. That was during the time when everybody had their own perception of what the Jackson family was about, and everybody had their own theories, and they had never come out and told their story. So they just wanted to make sure that it was done right. So they even, with Suzanne DePass being involved, making sure that relationship being shown with Motown and Berry Gordy, that was shown in an authentic way. Mr. Gordy came to set a couple times. Jermaine Jackson Jr. played Jermaine. So no, it was a family affair. Like Janet and Tupac came to the set like when they were shooting Poetic Justice. Like
Right.
no, it was real. It was dope.
And you actually got to meet Michael Jackson at some point during the filming of this.
Yeah, but I didn't know it at the time
What do you mean?
because he was in disguise.
What?
He came through in disguise because, and here's why he did it. There was one day that an announcement was made that he was coming, and I mean, the set went into a frenzy. I'm talking about crew members. These are professionals in Hollywood, man, that have worked with everybody. Man, the set's going ape shit. You know, you see security running around, all this, that, and the other. But it just so happened that day he didn't come. I guess there was a conflict in schedule, whatever. And I guess it got back to him that, you know, a disruption had occurred when it was announced that he would possibly be coming. So when he eventually came to visit, an AD, I was on a break, and an AD assistant director pulled me over and said, "Hey, Jason, come to this trailer. Somebody wants to meet you," and blase. And so I came over to this trailer, and it was this, what I thought was like this older white guy kind of just sitting there. And then I looked, and when he started speaking, when I looked at his eyes, he was like, "Man, you're doing a great job. Doing a really good job, Jason." I was like, "Oh, shit. Michael?" He's like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm sorry I had to come like this, but, you know," I was like, "Dude, look."
Well, what kind of disguise did he have? Explain it to me.
It was like, he had a beard for sure.
He had a fake beard.
He had a beard.
Wow. Okay.
He definitely looked like an older white guy. And I mean, even the clothes that he had on, because he was like cool with Rick Baker and shit. You know, the guy that did like American Werewolf and it did the makeup for Thriller and all of that.
Oh yeah, for the video, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was regarded as like Hollywood's biggest special effects makeup guy at the time.
He had a real.
So he was able to get real prosthetics and like real things.
Wow.
to be able to move. He would do that all the time. Just in his personal life when he wanted to feel normal, like a normal human being.
Oh, he would get the special effects makeup guy to turn him into a different person. He would just walk through the world undercover without anyone noticing. I never knew this.
Yeah.
But when you're Michael Jackson, who's basically the most famous person since Jesus Christ, I can't name another person in between Jesus and Michael who's more famous than Michael.
Yeah, I mean, they wearing Thriller shirts in like, you know, remote parts of the world, third world
Exactly.
countries and shit. Yeah.
You have to do, you know, really ridiculous things to try to get a level of privacy. Because I remember I interviewed Dallas Austin,
Okay.
who worked with him,
Yeah.
did a bunch of songs with him.
Yeah.
And he said that Michael was telling him that Russia was actually hiding him at one point.
It's kind of him against the United States. You know, like when he went to where they were looking for him everywhere, and the plane was landing in different places, and they're like, "Michael's getting off here, and the plane's taking back off," you know. And he's like, "Dallas, I was sitting in Moscow watching them myself land in different places on TV because the United States is looking for me everywhere. And the Russian government basically hit him, and he wrote 'Stranger in Moscow' in this hotel room while he's watching himself on TV. Like, "Oh, the KGB is after me." Like, and I was thinking, "Dang, man, how much power do you have where the Russian government takes you and hides you?"
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
The Russian government was hiding Michael Jackson,
Yep.
and no one knew where he was. And then eventually, you know, America found out and were upset about it.
Yeah.
That's the level that he was moving at. He was dealing with heads of governments of major countries.
Nah, bro, I mean, listen. I've seen grown men pass out looking at fucking Michael Jackson dance, bro. Like, one of the first concerts I ever went to was a Victory Tour. It was like 1984, Comiskey Park in Chicago. I'll never forget this shit, because, like, the Jacksons killed it. To this day, I've never seen a performance like that ever in my life from anybody, and I've been to some shows. But when Michael was doing his Thriller stuff and had the glove in it, I'm talking about grown-ass men from the south side of Chicago, gangster-looking ass motherfuckers, passing out in the middle of the field in Comiskey Park, and seeing women and children crying just in awe. It was crazy. And even then on the set, again, that was, a confirmation that we were doing some other shit. Because when you see professionals that have been working in film, grown adults, losing their shit because they think somebody's going to show up on set, it's like, man, okay.
It's Michael Jackson.
It's Michael Jackson, man.
I never got to meet him. One of my regrets.
I feel you. Well,
Yeah.
I'm so thankful, even if it was in that little amount of time and those circumstances that they were. I'm glad that I got the opportunity, at least just to say, like, thank you, because that really meant a lot to me. I, from that point on, throughout my gradual ascension and throughout the different stages of my career being in this business, that really helped to kickstart it and present me, before people and audiences and allow them to build a connection with me.
Yeah.
And man, I'm eternally grateful to Michael and the family. Real shit.
We know you fast forward to 2019 and Leaving Neverland came out. It actually won an Emmy.
It did.
Won an Emmy for Best Nonfiction Documentary.
Okay.
Which the Jackson family had a big problem with.
I'm sure they did.
Especially.
It was really disturbing.
You saw it?
Yeah, I watched it.
As someone who played Michael Jackson, I know you didn't know him very well and so forth, but as someone who played him and was involved in the whole Jackson story at this point, what do you think when you saw that documentary?
I mean, just even outside of my involvement with the film, like as a fan, I was like really heartbroken that something like this came out. And at the end of the day, first of all, let me say this with all due respect to Wade and the other gentlemen who have alleged that they were abused by Michael. If that is indeed true, man, I'm praying for those guys. I can't imagine if this is indeed true, what they've gone through. So I just want to preface what I'm about to say with just showing all due respect to them first, because no one knows the truth except for them, Michael, and God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's a very big, main point here.
Yeah.
Because I put up stuff sometimes online about whether he did it or whether he not did it. Like recently, I had the whole Michael Jackson fan base attack me over some comments, and then TJ Jackson joined the conversation and so forth.
Oh, you had the Jacksons.
I had the whole Jackson hive attacking me for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
But the reality is for everyone that knows, I know for a fact Michael didn't do it, or I know for a fact that he did do it. Right. Nobody knows for a fact what happened. In that room, we could only just guess based on the various pieces of information.
Absolutely. And look, as a fan and as someone who has a tremendous amount of respect for him and the Jackson family, I'm going to choose to personally believe that it didn't happen. And like I said, that's with all due respect to Wade and the other gentlemen and what they have alleged that they've experienced. But I wasn't there to see any of that, to witness any of that. Whatever involvement that I had with him and his family, anytime I've interacted with any of them, it's always been respectful. It's always been above board. It's always been some cool shit. So I can only just weigh my personal experiences against what those gentlemen alleged in the video. But what I will say is that I really hate that Michael wasn't able to at least give his story or at least defend himself. Because I think unfortunately what that film did, at the same time that it exposed these alleged crimes, I think at the same time what it did was also tarnish the legacy of someone that we've all throughout our lives held at such high regard, to where it's like even now, people don't, because of that, I have friends of mine who have had personal experiences with sexual abuse that don't listen to Michael Jackson anymore.
Well, I mean, I can say this. We don't know what happened behind closed doors.
Right.
But we do know that Michael Jackson spent a lot of time with small children.
Yeah, we do.
We do know that he slept in the bed with them.
Yeah, we do.
Parents left children with Michael.
Yes.
And all that. And you as a father know that you would not do the same thing with your child, Michael Jackson or anyone else.
Hell no.
Pick your favorite singer or actor that you look up to. You may love Denzel Washington, but you're not
Yeah.
going to leave your 10-year-old son at Denzel's house for a couple days and let Denzel sleep in
Hell
the room
no.
with him. So you have to say, at a certain level, regardless of how much of a fan you are, that Michael did certain things that caused these problems onto himself.
Oh yeah, I mean, anybody that's close to him and that knew him like that, if you ask them, they'll tell you, "Hey, I tried to tell him like it's not cool. Like you may want to stop doing that."
Oh, so you've had these kind of
Yeah,
conversations?
I've had conversations, not to air anybody out, but I've
Yeah.
had conversations with like friends of his that knew him
Yeah.
intimately. On a platonic level, of course, but that expressed their concerns to him about, him and how the way he was interacting with children. And their reply to me always is that his response is that it was innocent and that it wasn't like that. And I mean, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but me personally, I'm not letting my child I never let my child go to sleepovers.
Right.
The only time I let my son go to a sleepover was like when he was with family. You know what I'm saying? And that's even with that's all the cousins getting together and everybody's there, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's parental supervision and all that, like, and I'm trusting that. But just to willfully offer up my child like that,
Yeah,
it's just,
I mean,
it's
taking
not-
kids on tour with them and so forth, there was a lot of things that Michael did that was just out of pocket, point blank, period. And the backlash was something that he caused himself, regardless of whether it's true or not. And you have to put that on Michael.
No, I mean, and honestly, and this is out of respect to his legacy and to his family, if I was him, I wouldn't have, while he was alive, I wouldn't have had as many like out of court settlements. You know what I'm saying? Because at the time, what he was saying was, and this is documented, he was saying that he was doing that because it was stressful. He just wanted to get it over with, and he just wanted to settle it out of court. And I get that. When somebody's making an accusation like that, you already got enough shit on your plate, and the world is attacking you. It can weigh you down. It can kill you. You know what I'm saying? I get it. But I would have been like, nah, man, fuck that. Like, we just gonna go to court about it. Because I'm not gonna be walking around here having people think, you know what I'm saying, that I'm a pedophile or that I'm rocking with kids like that. So me personally, one of the only mistakes that I saw that he really made, whether he's guilty or innocent, was just not being, I think, more forthright and more forthcoming and more aggressive as far as defending, himself,
Yeah, man. Well, there you have it. Michael Jackson speaks on Michael Jackson.
But I love Mike though, and I can't stress enough how appreciative I am of him and the family. And at the same time, with all due respect to Wade and the other gentleman, like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And if that did happen, man, I hope that God will provide them some peace and some closure eventually with that, because people that I do know of who have experienced that have been traumatized for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And they still have problems having, normal interactions and relationships,
Yeah, man. I feel you. Like I said, we'll never know.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Well, so then your next big role was in The Lion King,
Yep.
where you were the singing voice
I was the
of
singing voice.
young Simba.
Yeah.
So you were what, about 11, 12 years old?
No, at that time, and that's what I was going to tell you earlier, we got to move up a little bit. When I did the Jacksons, I was like 13.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, no, let me see. No. I was 12 because when I did The Lion King, I remember specifically I was in like 7th, 8th grade. And yeah, I was recruited by Elton John for that on the Jackson set. He came to visit. We would have a lot of visitors that would come to the set just out of curiosity of Michael and out of support. And they would just show up and hang out while we were shooting. And one of those particular days, Elton John came through while we were shooting Who's Loving You. And that particular day, I had to actually like sing that song live because it was something was wrong with the playback. It was messed up, so I had to actually do it. And he was there and heard my voice and had approached my mother and said, I'm currently working on this project. with Tim Rice over at Disney. It's called The Lion King. I don't know if Jason would be interested, but I would like to submit him to Disney to audition for the role. So, of course, we jumped at the opportunity. Being completely honest, I really didn't know that well, like, about Elton John's background and who he was. But I knew that he was, a big music figure and someone to be respected. So I just knew that anything that he was possibly doing with Disney was worth, giving a shot. So me and my mother, it was the day after we wrapped the Jacksons. Disney gave us a limousine, shot us over to a studio in Burbank. I sang I Just Can't Wait to Be King, like down maybe about 7-8 times. And then the next thing I knew, like, they called me back in the control room, and they officially offered it to me, and said, yeah, we're gonna roll with this song, and you wanna be down with this project. And of course I was like, yeah. And then during that time, and I've had to really clear this up in a couple other interviews too. I want people to know this, that Disney did not like shit on me when it came to the actual speaking voice of Simba. That role was awarded to Jonathan Taylor Thomas maybe 2 or 3 days prior to me even coming in and initially auditioning for the singing role. So although Disney was like very pleased with my performance with singing the song, and had indeed offered me essentially the role in a recording booth, until they got confirmation from business affairs at Disney that a deal had already been closed, then that's when they kind of had to retract that, basically.
Okay, so I Just Can't Wait to Be King. That was sort of the main song.
That was the main song.
Was there other songs?
There was Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata.
Yep, and then there was one more that never made the film called Warthog Rhapsody.
Okay.
And it was dope. And that was really just a record between like me and Pumbaa and Timon. Yeah.
Okay, can you still do the songs?
Hell no.
No?
No, I wish, man. But now it's funny because when Disney called me maybe 4 years later after the original film release, and they were taking it to Broadway. And they were like, yo, Jason's still young, and this is like, on stage, and he can actually be in it. Can he sing the songs? And so I was like, well, if I got to sing them in that key, because I tried. I wanted that check.
Right.
I was like, hold on, let me see if I can. Me. Nah, that shit didn't work out. So, I had to turn that down. But, anytime that they've had to use the original recording, Disney always comes back. We renegotiate a new deal, new terms based on whatever it is that they're specifically trying to do, with the property at that time that they need me to sign off on. I get a check for that one, still get, residuals from the original release. And it's actually been the gift that has kept on giving throughout the years on some real shit.
Have you seen the new one?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought it was good. Like,
I haven't seen it, so let me just preface by saying I haven't seen it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But based on all of the trailers and everything I've seen,
yeah,
it just looks like National Geographic.
I feel you.
You see what I'm saying? And you miss the character of each, like the actual like aura of each character when it's drawn out. I mean, having a whole bunch of realistic animals with talking mouths.
Yeah.
Doesn't give you the warthog, doesn't give you Scar, it doesn't give you the hyenas.
No, that's
so
true.
From what I saw, like I haven't seen it yet, so maybe I'm just hating from the sidelines, but I just can't see the magic of the first one in that second one the way it's done.
Nah, you know what? It don't even feel bad about that, Vlad, because unfortunately that was kind of like the overall consensus, especially amongst the culture and like the Black community in particular. They were like, man, this isn't the shit I grew up with. Like everybody kind of had their own view of what they thought about it. But here's what I will say. I think that what this version of the film was able to do was wrangle in the new generation. there are going to be kids, babies that saw this one that when they grow up to be our age, they're going to identify with this one. So I think that, Disney knows what they're doing in that regard as far as keeping an iconic intellectual property like that going. So I get it. I Another main reason why I support it wholeheartedly is because I'm a huge fan of J.D. McCrary, the new young Simba. He's a great kid, incredibly talented. I really, I'm excited about what this is going to do for him in his career because I know how rewarding it's been for me and the things that I've been able to kind of gain from it, whether it's monetary or whether it's just actual life experience. So, and then, of course, like I'm a big fan of Beyonce and Donald Glover and all of those people and Chiwetel and, so to see all of those people involved in it and for it to just blow up to be something like so big like that, to where so many iconic people want to be a part of the new one and help revive it and be a part of its reemergence or resurgence. I mean, man, I wish everybody well. I hope, that people will continue to support not only that one, but the original. Definitely keep supporting the original so we can keep getting that bread. I just want people to just, whatever you like, man, just, support it. Because at the end of the day, I think it's coming from a place where, it's just trying to make people feel good,
Well, I guess when you first signed the deal
Yeah.
with Disney,
Uh-huh.
they offered you just a big upfront check with no royalties.
That's initially what they tried to do. Yeah,
But you negotiated royalties on it.
absolutely.
How big of a check was that when they offered you the upfront check?
Way more than what they initially offered. I'll just put it to you like that. Like, when I got my first royalty check, me and my mom thought it was a mistake.
Okay, no, what I'm saying is, okay, when they gave you the first offer
Yeah,
with no royalties at all,
yeah.
was it a huge check?
Oh, yeah. It was like, I remember it was like $2 million.
What?
Yeah.
They offered you a $2 million check to sing the parts in The Lion King.
Yep.
Not even do the voice yet, just do the singing parts.
Just singing.
$2 million.
Yeah, because they were on it like,
They were cutting checks like that, huh?
well, you got to remember, they're coming off of,
Well, I guess you're the main character.
yeah, and then they're coming off of Beauty and the Beast.
Mm.
They're coming off of Aladdin. You know what I'm saying? Like
Disney, man.
Disney had bread.
Disney just would write a blank check, huh?
They'll write it, and that was the thing that struck my mom. She was like, because our agent called and was like, Kitty, they offered Jason this. And we were all like, holy shit, are you sick? I mean, that amount of money to average middle class family in Chicago in the early 90s, that's something. But immediately my mom goes, wait a minute. After the initial excitement wore off, she's like, wait a minute. Okay, if they're willing to do that, okay, so that's it. That's all he'll ever get for like the remainder of his life. They were like, that's it. He takes the money, that's it. She was like, no, let's negotiate royalties. Let's negotiate based off of royalties. And this was definitely at a time that when Disney wasn't doing those kind of deals.
Huh. Okay.
Unless you were like Peebo Bryson or somebody like that, like already an established huge pop star that they had recruited. I'm sure his deal was way different than anything that they would offer a relatively no name at that time.
Okay.
So when they offered that deal, it was really just to take this money and go. Because I think they knew and forecasted that they were going to make a shit ton of money, and $2 million next to, hundreds, if not billions of dollars that they've made off of this franchise. Like, I mean, man, they got the Animal Kingdom in Disney World that's themed off of the Lion King. They got dolls and t-shirts and video games. And I mean, I got a platinum plaque for a storybook that they released. You know what I'm saying? That was really just a storybook with my song in it.
Okay, so you turned down the $2 million deal.
Yep.
So you took less money with royalties.
Absolutely.
Was it like $1 million, or do you remember how much it was?
No, it was relatively low. I think it was like 100,000.
You went from $2 million to 100,000
Yep.
in order to get royalties.
So you could play the long game.
Wow.
Because honestly,
Okay, and let me ask you a
Okay.
question before you go on.
Mm.
Were you offered anywhere near $2 million to play Michael Jackson?
hell no.
How much was that check back then?
Ooh. Oh, that one was like, I think I only made like 80,000.
Okay, so you're making, and that was your biggest check, I'm sure, in your career at that point.
Yeah.
Right? As
Yeah.
a 13-year-old or whatever.
Absolutely.
So you go from 80,000, which is cool,
cool.
but it's not.
Yeah.
You're not
it's
buying
like,
a Ferrari with 80,000.
Hell no.
To being offered $2 million up front, and your mom was smart enough to turn that down.
Absolutely. Shout out to my mother. No, I mean,
So you gave up $1.9 million
at that time.
at that time.
At that time, yeah.
Wow.
Because it was, in her opinion, she's absolutely right. Because honestly, that income, that residual income that I generate, man, that shit is so helpful.
Okay, so
Like, even nowadays, like, man, when I get in a check from the Lion King, I be like, fuck, yes.
did you make more than $1.9 million over time?
Over time, yes.
Okay, so that was actually the smart move.
Yeah.
And then when Lion King 2019 comes out, everyone's watching the old movie.
Yep.
Everyone's licensing the old movie, et cetera,
Yep.
et cetera. Those checks just jump up.
Because I guess she figured, because Disney had a reputation for that, of like re-releasing stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think at that time they had put out maybe even Sleeping Beauty and some of their old catalog when like Disney was alive. They were releasing that stuff during when they were releasing the new Disney stuff. So she was able to see the playing field and go, wait a minute, this is going to make a lot of money over time. So what happens when my son turns 40? Like, is he still going to be able to get a check from this when they eventually re-release this? Like, and
Yeah.
sure enough, she was absolutely right.
Well, your estate will be able to pass down those royalties to your son
Absolutely.
and to his kids and
Absolutely.
so forth. That could literally keep running forever.
It could.
Yeah.
It could. So
100 years, 200 years from now,
It could
when they
still
make
be
Lion
rocking.
King 2022,
With robots and
90,
shit.
yeah,
Fucking Mufasa.
and people
shit.
want to watch the original, boom.
Yeah.
Which, will still be the best one, but
Yeah, thank you. Now,
There
and
you
if they
go.
still use the original
Okay.
recording, we gonna get some bread.
that's
Absolutely.
dope, man. That's one for the business books right there.
Nah, honestly, and that's what I tell people all the time. I make sure that I give my mother her just due props and credit for that, because if she hadn't done that, that would have been one of the biggest mistakes of my career, like business wise.
$2 million is not really a mistake.
Well, yeah, but looking,
'cause you probably didn't make 20 million or something off that.
Well, yeah,
$2 million is not really a mistake.
Yeah,
Because you could have taken that $2 million and invested it, and that could have turned into 10 million by now.
Yeah. I mean, but I was like, what, 13?
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about
You
a
would have fucked it
portfolio
off.
and
Yeah.
shit. Diversifying.
You
Hell
would have
no.
fucked it off.
I would have fucked it off. Absolutely.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started getting other roles at that point. You
Yeah.
were in Sister for a couple episodes.
Yep.
Then you get on Smart Guy for 51 episodes.
Yep.
So you were a regular, recurring character on there.
Mm-hmm.
Was that like your first real like TV series? Like,
Nah. Prior to that, I did a show with Brandy on ABC called Thea.
oh, okay.
We were in a show together. It starred comedian Thea Vidal. And it was about a single mother in Houston raising 4 kids, 3 boys, 1 girl. And me and Brandy were on that show together. This is before Brandy became Brandy. This is before I Want to Be Down came out. Yeah, we were on that show together. So I had previous experience in the sitcom world prior to Smart Guy.
Okay. Smart Guy was a dope show, though.
Thanks, man.
It was
I
an
appreciate
iconic
it.
show. Everyone knew about him. Like, I thought that was a really cool character.
Thanks, man.
And then you get Drumline in 2002
Yeah.
with my man Nick Cannon.
Yep, with Nick. Yep.
And I guess what I didn't realize was that Drumline was actually based on Dallas Austin's life,
That's right.
who we recently interviewed as well.
Yeah. Shout out to Dallas. Yep.
So, it's kind of like, it's interesting how all my other people I interviewed sort of coming together on this movie.
Yeah.
And that was Nick Cannon's kind of breakout role.
Yep. It definitely was his breakout role. I remember when I was finally cast for it, and they made me aware of who else was like attached, and definitely who was playing the number 1. And I was like, oh, Nick from like Nickelodeon? And you're like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. And then when he got on set and when he and I began like talking and establishing a rapport with one another, and he's telling me all this shit that he's doing, I'm like, man, goddamn, like this guy is
Yeah.
like, word, you already got another. You're executive producing it, yeah, man. And then at that time too, I think he was like signed to Jive Records, so he had 2 deals as a producer going. He had a deal with Jive Records that he had pretty much like negotiated along with his team, but he was very much in charge of his business. And then he had other things that he was like, planning on doing that he was, just kind of sharing with me. We were talking between takes and then his just extensive amount of knowledge as it related to how to like break down deals. I was like, oh, this cat's on some other shit.
Mm-hmm.
Cause he's like, he's talking that shit like, he's talking about stipulations in an agreement and what he's gonna make off of this years from now. And I was like, okay, he's eventually gonna become one of those guys.
Yeah, and he did.
He did, and you know what? Rightfully so. Let me say this too. Like Nick, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Nick. He's worked hard. He's never let his ego get in his way as far as his ability to make good, sound decisions. He's never let his ego get in the way as it relates to helping other people, a la what you see with Wildin' Out, where he gives so many young kids, young comedians, even some of these IG models, you know what I'm saying? And an opportunity to get seen and to kind of establish themselves. And even people that he knows behind the scenes that he's given opportunities to. Nick deserves a lot more respect and credit than I think he does. I think a lot more people are becoming more aware of his contributions, and therefore they're kind of waking up a little bit now. But I still think that he deserves way more credit within the culture,
Yeah,
and with our peers all together, because he's done a lot, and a lot of people haven't been able to successfully do what he's been able to do.
well, this is something I think about sometimes also. I feel I don't get the proper respect for VladTV in terms of what we accomplish and so forth. Mm-hmm. And the conclusion I've come to a long time ago is that you just have to be happy with the check.
Well, yeah, but here's the other thing.
You have to be happy with the check, and let me tell you, Nick got that check.
He got that check. I mean, every time I see him, he pulling up in a fucking Phantom. Nick, can you throw me a check?
You have to be happy with the check, and the respect, will come eventually, one way or another.
Here's the thing,
maybe it'll come after you pass. It will come based on the work you put in.
The respect is already there. It's just people just don't like to show it. It's
that's what I'm saying. They like to hate.
Yeah, because honestly, like even with your show, man, cats can talk all the shit that they want to talk. But if you go, you come on the show, you're not going to get a guy that goes, no, I don't want to come on the Vlad TV show. Fuck Vlad. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
So honestly, and when it comes to Nick, people can say whatever they want to say when he's not in the fucking room. But when he walks in a room, and if he comes to you and says, hey, you want to hop on, I'm executive producing this, what are you going to say? No, fuck you,
No,
Nick.
you're corny.
You're a cornball? No.
I ain't doing it with you.
Exactly. Like, so
I'd rather sit on my couch.
Bullshit. Right. So that's all bullshit. At the end of the day, I think, people just don't openly give him the amount of respect that he deserves. And I think that's a shame because he's really doing some good things out here. So salute to you, Nick.
Yep, and he's rich.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Well, I didn't realize until before the interview is that you did Ladykillers.
Yeah.
You had a role in there. Because I'm a Coen Brothers fanatic. And just recently I was going through their list and said, oh, I didn't see that. That was like the one movie I never saw, so I had to watch it.
That was the problem.
And it was a dope movie.
Thanks, man. Nobody saw it, though.
They had the all-star cast. They had Tom Hanks
you know what,
as the lead. And
I think what it was, the dialogue went over a lot of people's heads. That movie was for guys like us. Analytical, cerebral, like appreciators of real art and wording and how things will unfold and storylines. So when Joel and Ethan did that, they made that movie for guys like us. And then, for regular movie-going audiences that just want to see a cool bang-bang shoot-'em-up on a Saturday.
Not that.
They're not going to see that.
It's not that. And, I think the Coen brothers, like some of my favorite films are like Hudsucker Proxy.
Absolutely.
And Raising Arizona.
Brazen Arizona is one of the best
You
ones.
see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the Coen brothers have this very unique role in Hollywood where they get to do whatever the fuck they want to do. Doesn't matter if it goes into a formula. You know, big stars will join in if needed, but if not, they'll do it anyways.
Yeah.
And they'll put out these, you know, these passion projects that some do really well, some don't do nothing, but they keep getting the opportunity to do them because they're the Coen brothers.
Well, it always balances out because they can do that one film that you can view as like a throwaway, but then next year they'll be at the Oscars.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Hollywood
They have
just
Oscars,
kinda,
right?
Yeah. They got what for Fargo?
Yeah.
And Barton Fink, I think they make, and most of them I think are like writing because they're, man, Joel and Ethan are like really skilled writers. Even when I read the script for Ladykillers, and as a matter of fact, speaking of Nick, I don't know if he ever shared this with you, and you could confirm this with him when you interview him next. He was supposed to play Marlon Wayans' character.
Oh, Nick was supposed to play the crazy
He's
gold
supposed to play
chain, dollar sign gold chain wearing.
Because that was like right after Drumline, I believe. And I remember.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can totally see that.
Cast, they were saying, oh, this is another one that you're going to be in with Nick. It's like another, you know, film or whatever. And I was like, oh, shit, that's dope.
Yeah.
And then it just so happened, I guess there was a scheduling conflict, or maybe they just weren't able to work out terms in the deal. But eventually Marlon was cast and, you know.
Yeah, he did his thing.
Yeah, Marlon did his thing. I fucks with Marlon.
I looked it up. The Coen brothers have 7 Academy Awards.
They have 7 Oscars?
And 48 nominations.
Damn.
Plus 7 BAFTA awards, 3 Golden Globes.
Word?
Yeah,
they got BAFTAs?
They got BAFTAs. Yeah.
Man.
They got a whole wall full of awards.
And you know what's crazy about those guys? If you saw them out, like at a CVS drugstore or some shit, you'd swear they were just some fucking nerds walking up and down the aisle. I kid you not. I remember when we were shooting some stuff from Ladykillers, and I didn't know what the Coen brothers looked like. I had just been cast. I had seen their movies, but I had never seen what they looked like. So I'm at craft service, and there's this little guy that comes next to me, and he has on like this pink tight shirt with like multiple holes in it, multiple tears. I'm looking like, man, who is this guy? Like,
who let this guy in?
Yeah, I was like, it's AD. Like, it's not coming in. He's gonna get fired. Like, he's coming in looking like he's homeless. As he's getting a bagel or whatever, he looks over. He says, "Oh, Jason Weaver." It's like, yeah. How are you? Ethan Coen. It's like, Ethan Coen, bro. You're Ethan Coen. He's like, yeah, man. What's up? So glad to have you here, man. I'm looking around like, yo. I mean, it was insane. And then when I went on set and shot my scenes, like Joel, it was the same kind of attire, and they were so unassuming. And that's when I remember thinking to myself, I was like, man, this is the real shit. Like,
yeah,
this is the real power right here. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, the quiet, understated juggernaut, or you know, that's in the room.
Yeah, man. I love being able to go to grocery stores and not be recognized and go about my day.
There's power in that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when Jalen Rose, when I interviewed him recently, he said, he's like, I would love to just walk down the street, you know, still have the same paycheck and just be able to walk down the street without being stopped.
For me, if I could have all of the money in the world and walk down the street and nobody knew who I was, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I would.
That's my motivation right there.
Right? That would be ideal.
3 feet. Yeah. And yeah, man. There is an advantage to that. Absolutely. No, and especially if you have the ownership aspect of it, then it changes the whole playing field.
It definitely does. Because I tell people all the time, you know, when they ask me about celebrity or experiencing fame or whatever, in my personal opinion, like, I kind of look at the shit as being overrated, because it's not, like, once you get over the initial, you know, you get girls on you, like girls chasing you, and you get people recognizing you in the mall or the store. And after you go through that, like, after a few years, like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Where you at that point, you really do want to just go into a sports bar and have a beer, you know, without somebody asking you about the business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or pitching something to you.
Right.
But, you know, but again, you know, that's kind of the unwritten.
I got this script, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't written it yet, but here's the concept.
Man, I'm telling you, it's going to be the shit.
It's going to be the
shit. So can I get your number?
You
be like, dog, I'm trying to look at the Bears game. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, I never realized you were on Chingy's One Phone Call Away.
Yep.
Or One Call Away.
Yep.
Is the name of the song.
Yep.
You actually do the hook.
Yep.
And that was actually, in the music video, Keisha Knight Pullman, who played Rudy on The Cosby Show, that was sort of like her first appearance since The Cosby Show, I feel.
Yeah, because she was, she had like exited from the game to go to school at Clark.
Right.
So she focused on being in Atlanta and being a student.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was kind of, when that video came out, that was kind of her entryway, or her reintroducing herself, back to her fans. And coincidentally, I did that song on my lunch break during the Ladykillers. I did One Call Away on my lunch break while I was shooting the Ladykillers right in Burbank. And Ethan gave me permission to leave set to record that song.
Aha.
Because the AD wasn't going to allow me to do it. It was the only day that I could go in and record it. And I told the AD, I was like, look, after lunch, they're not getting my shot. You guys aren't going to see me back until like 5, 6 o'clock p.m. Can I shoot over to Burbank real quick and record this record? So the AD was giving me a little bit of grief about it. Ethan overheard it and came up and said, Jason, he's good. Jason, go and record whatever it is you're recording and come back to work.
Yeah, man, that was a dope song.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate
No,
it.
I mean, that was a hit. It was like the number 2 song.
It was the number 2 song. No, it worked. Shout out to my man Poon Daddy. That's how I got on that record. Poon Daddy, formerly of the Chris Lover and Poon Daddy Show, Hot 97 for all the ATLians that know. So now he called me to ask me if I would come in and sing it down a couple times, because they knew that it was going to be a single, but they just didn't know who was going to be the featured vocalist on it. And, keeping it all the way real, like, Capitol didn't want me. Capitol Records didn't want me on the record. They wanted, like, Marcus Houston. They wanted Omarion. They wanted Houston, who was signed to them at the time. They wanted every young vocalist except me. And,
well, to be fair, those guys had big hits.
no, they had big hits. They were, they were big artists at that time. So I totally get it. But no, Poon, he fought real hard for me to get on that record. And, they did a couple focus groups on it. And eventually the people kind of just spoke and were like, nah, man, Jason's version is cool. Like, he may not be Marcus Houston or Marion, but shit sounds hot. And so it came out.
Well, I've interviewed Chingy a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
He has a very interesting outlook on life these days. I don't know if you've seen any of his.
No, I haven't seen any interviews.
Yeah, his philosophies are interesting.
What is it? What is he on?
Well, it's hard to describe.
Okay.
But he just explains kind of philosophy and religion and science in its own sort of mishmash.
Okay.
Kind of strange sort of way. And you kind of have to see it.
I'll have to see it.
You have to really hear him explain it to really understand. And I remember I interviewed him at the time where, that one transgender model accused him
I remember that.
of sleeping with him. And then he denied it, and he ended up losing like a major deal. And he talked about this, like, he lost a major deal.
Oh, really?
Because
of that?
accusations. And then this was a Sydney Star. She came out afterwards and said the whole thing was a lie, and she just used it to get
That's
publicity.
fucked
And
up.
I've interviewed her, and she actually admitted on camera that, yeah.
Really?
And, it was one of those things, one of those unfortunate things back in, this was not 2019 where, Malik Yoba comes out and no one really cares. Back then, it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And, man.
Man, that's too bad. Nah, because Chingy's such a great guy, man.
Yeah.
Like,
I fuck with Chingy.
yeah, I fucks with Ching, man. Like, look, anytime he has something going on with that song, he always reaches out to me. And, a lot of people have asked me why we've never actually performed a song live together. But during that time, when the song was like really popular, there were a lot of people in Chingy's camp, and there were a lot of people, I guess, supposedly in his pockets too during that time.
Huh.
And, with a young kid like that, and you have so many people around you, they kind of dictate to you and tell you what you should do and how you should go about doing it. So from what Chingy had told me, just so, people, the audience or the fans that love that song, just so they know, Chingy's always reached out to me to perform the record. But from what he told me, he was always told, whether it's from executives or people in his camp, that like I was always unavailable because I was either shooting something or I just didn't want to be a part of it, which was a total and complete lie. So it never gave us the ability to really live out the record together and enjoy the success of the record together. But I have a tremendous amount of respect for Chingy because like years later, after he and I talked about it and he was able to reveal a lot of things to me, he was like, man, I just, from now on, man, in the future, when I do some shit, like, I just want to make sure that I include you on it because you were such a major part of that record, being successful. And so, like, I just want to tell Chingy, like, I really appreciate that. And he's a real stand-up dude for doing that. And I hope maybe in the near future when, he performs it live or wherever, again, we'll get the opportunity to eventually do it. But I just want to thank him for that because, that's being a stand-up dude right there.
I'll play you. We can kind of cut this into the Chingy part.
Okay.
But because I know it always pops up on Twitter like every like couple months.
Okay.
But here's a part of our interview from Chingy, just so you can kind of get it.
Up to the cerebrum brain, then you would know when Moses split the Red Sea and the water raised on this side and the water raised on this side, he put the staff in the middle, which is the spine. And the Kundalini energy is the Pingala, the masculine energy, and the Ida, the feminine energy,
okay.
The electrical energy that goes up the chakras to ignite the pineal gland.
Okay.
Which, when Moses was at the top of the mountain, he spoke to a burning bush.
Okay.
If you know anything about your pineal gland, it's shaped like a burning bush.
Okay.
It's the light receptor that interacts with the universe.
Okay.
That electricity comes down into. And you can talk to God through meditation.
Okay. It's the way that he's wording it.
I'm not going to say that I understand anything that he said. Let me just keep it 100,
Yeah. No,
he seems to have a firm, focus on this, and I respect it. But
yeah.
I'm not going to pretend to really understand any of the stuff that he just said.
No, I'm familiar with what he's talking about as it relates to meditation because there is a gland in the center of your head. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. What is it? Pineal gland or whatever it's called, but it's
Not sure.
Anyway, it's supposed to be that third eye that allows you to, in meditation and in prayer, be able to connect with the Most High and to receive the signals. So I get what he's saying with that. I think with all due respect to him, I think that when he explains it from now on, and if he wants people to gain a better understanding of it, try to explain it more in layman's terms. Because when you start talking about chakras and shit,
Right, you throw Moses.
yeah, you throwing Moses in the mix, and you throwing the staff and the part in the Red Sea.
The burning bush.
Somebody's gonna be like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" So I fucks with Chingy, and I get what he's saying. But goddamn, like we gotta figure out. I gotta call him. We gonna figure out a better way to word that shit. But but I guess he's just at that stage in his life,
Yeah, man.
where he's evolved and he's finding those things that are helping him remain centered. Because man, this is a hard business, and when you've gone through, I guess some of the things that he's experienced, especially with losing a deal through to some kind of fucked up room. I mean, that could really damage a person if you aren't centered in some kind of way. So maybe that's his way of doing it.
Then you end up doing ATL.
Yeah.
Very iconic film.
Thank you. Yeah. Another true to life experience for Dallas Austin. Another film based off of Dallas.
You're right. Dallas Austin was involved in the ATL story as well.
Yeah, his life is his life is literally iconic.
Yeah, no, I mean the Dallas Austin interview. Like I've interviewed a lot of talented people, but Dallas Austin is absolutely the top of that list.
Oh,
just
yeah.
in terms of the kind of shit that he did, the hundreds of millions of records sold, and
Oh yeah.
how his story intermixes with so many important events.
Mm-hmm.
But ATL was such a dope film.
Thanks, man.
And Lauren London was basically introduced to the world in that film.
Yeah.
I guess she was already dating Lil Wayne during that time.
I believe so.
He used to come to the set. There we go. I interviewed Jackie Long, who also worked on ATL.
Yeah, it's my dog.
And yeah, he used to say that Wayne used to come to the set. I had heard that Lil Wayne was actually dating Lauren London way back then. Like, was he like coming to the set and stuff like that?
True. That's true. That's true. That's true. If you didn't know what that was, True. That's true.
How often would Lil Wayne show up?
Honestly, I think Lil Wayne maybe showed up mainly at nighttime, not in the daytime. So ain't no telling how many times he showed up, but he showed up. You know, I know he was around, but I don't think he was around too much because Lauren, you know, is a professional, so she had to work. But he definitely was around.
I mean, this is common knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, she ended up having a child with Lil Wayne after that. Did you have any idea what ATL was going to do when you were working on it?
Man, I knew that it was going to be received well. I knew the culture was going to love it because I knew it was like rooted in true Atlanta. Like it was authentic to the Atlanta experience and the culture and what that is down there. And I knew with Tip being at the helm of it, with Big Boy playing the Nemesis.
Right. That was T.I.'s acting debut also, right?
I believe it was.
Yeah. And probably Big Boy's also.
No, Big Boy prior to that did Idlewild. I know he gets a lot.
Not the greatest film. It was his first good film. How's that?
Yeah. Okay. Bet. So no, he had done that prior to ATL, and then I knew with Dallas, because he and I had did Drumline together. I knew his level of taste. Like he wouldn't be behind something unless he knew it was going to be like the shit.
Yeah.
And I remember when I met Chris Robinson and we were on set. Well, I met Chris during the auditions, but I remember the first time it was confirmed to me that we were doing some pretty cool shit is we were like in the video village and he was looking at a playback of something that we had just done, and him and our director of photography, Crash, were looking at the playback, and I just remember looking at the shot and the way that it was lit and just the colors popping out, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be dope as fuck. Like, you know what I mean?
Chris Robinson did his thing on it.
No, Chris is great, man. Like
dope.
he's a great director.
He did that film on Netflix recently.
Got the film on Netflix with
Yeah.
Anthony Anderson. I forgot the name. Sorry, Chris. And I
Let's
think he's
look it
got
up
the Wu-Tang.
You're right.
the
Yeah, he
new
does a new
Wu-Tang
the
series.
Wu-Tang American story.
Yeah. Chris is a great storyteller. Like, man, he should. I hope Hollywood continues to give him more opportunities. You know, to direct films and really put his vision forth because he's dope.
Beats is the name of the Netflix film.
Yeah, because he shot that in Chicago. He hired a couple of
Yeah.
my friends back home on that.
I think Chris has quite a few opportunities that he's been given. I think he's been
Yeah.
he's ran with.
He's definitely
successfully,
ran
so
with it. Yeah.
I think he's fine.
Yeah, he is.
Shout
That's
out
right.
to Chris
Shout out to
Robinson.
Chris. Absolutely.
Well, when I interviewed Jackie Long, there was no plans for a ATL 2.
Right.
But then shortly after our interview, it was announced that ATL 2 was in development.
Okay.
But I guess the death of Nipsey Hussle has kind of derailed that whole process.
Yeah, I actually saw Tip recently during the ESPYs. There was an event that he was co-hosting with Gary Vee, and we saw each other there, and we had a chance to talk about it. Because we had, even prior to me and Tip seeing each other recently, we shot a trailer to ATL 2 like 3 years ago. Out here.
Really?
Yeah, out here.
That was how long ago they were serious about it.
Yeah, because Nip came to the set. We shot right in Canoga Park. And basically all it was like Evan Ross and Tip had a scene where there was actual dialogue that was constructed that Chris shot. And then we shot some stuff. Like we did something similar to this where we did interviews as our characters. And then I guess what they were going to do was cut all of that together and then present it back to the studio so that they could get approval, because unbeknownst to us at the time, like Warner was on it, like they didn't want to do a sequel. And Tip and Chris were like, look, they're full of shit. They just got to be shown that there's an audience there. So they really took it upon themselves to bring everybody together and to kickstart it. Unfortunately, I think that there was a little bit of a discrepancy, with Dallas and Tip as far as how that should have been orchestrated, with pushing that out. But they eventually came to a resolution about that, and we're back in the talks of pushing it forward. And then unfortunately, Nipsey got killed, which has been, and understandably so, has been extremely devastating for Lauren.
Yeah.
And so when I talked to Tip about it, he was like, look, he said, we all want to do it, but, I respect for Lauren. Let's give her, some time. She's got children. She's got things going on. So from what I've been told from Tip, that's kind of where we're at with it right now. But I know everybody that was involved with the original definitely wants to do it. It's just a matter of, I guess, the stars aligning and making it happen.
Yeah, man, I hope so.
I hope so too.
Great film.
Thank you. I'm really
great
glad
film.
that you liked it, and I'm so glad that everybody else out there likes it. It trips me out to see rap interviews or rap videos and people standing in front of the Cascade sign, and even people going when they visit Atlanta, and part of one of their destinations with visiting the culture down there is to go to Cascade and to take a picture in front of the sign. So that's really dope.
Well, it was a stylistic movie. Like the way it was cut and the way it was presented, I thought was really dope. And Chris Robinson's obviously the director, but there was a lot of other people that were involved in that.
Our DP Crash was dope.
Yeah,
our lighting guys,
you guys did your thing on it.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Well, Boosie is a regular guest on the show.
Mm-hmm.
In 2014, when he gets out of prison, you had some words about Boosie.
I didn't have words about Bootsy. Nah. I actually, what I posted, if I could vaguely remember, because it was years ago, what I had said is for people to, I was like, yeah, man, Bootsy's dope. Like, I'm celebrating that he's out too. But I was like, man, why don't y'all, post more stuff about kids, graduating or things that have happened in people's lives that don't get a lot of acknowledgement. Because on social media, you don't see random posts about, well, now you do, but back then you didn't see a lot of random posts about, fathers showing up to the schools, encouraging the kids on the first day of school. And, you didn't see videos of people graduating and crossing over and getting their diplomas and stuff like that. And especially as it related to the community. So I was speaking to the community and saying, no, that's dope. I'm glad Bootsy is out too. Like, I fucks with Bootsy. I love his music. But y'all, everybody's just on it, and I get it, but with the same amount of energy that you're using to promote that and to celebrate that, celebrate this as well, or try to be more cognizant of and aware of presenting those kind of images or celebrating those kind of things as well. But the community at the time took it like I was shitting on Bootsy, which wasn't the case.
Well, this is what you said.
Okay.
He said, okay, so I see a lot of people on IG posting stuff about Lil Boosie getting out of prison, talking about welcome home, Boosie back, and all kinds of other coon shit. Mm-hmm. The problem I have with the IG post regarding him getting out is it's being displayed like some kind of thing to celebrate. I'm sorry, man. Why can't we celebrate young black men who have stayed out of prison?
Okay. But again, it wasn't like I was saying fuck Boosie. I never, it wasn't on it like that. What I was challenging the community to do, was to celebrate more black men and black women who haven't gone through that yet. Like, cause look, prison and being incarcerated and street life and the negative effects of that, we're all aware of. We celebrate it. Well, we don't celebrate it. Well, we acknowledge it in our music, in hip hop music, and we talk about it a lot. But there aren't a lot of stories that we have a tendency to focus on that are more positive. Now, this has happened recently where you're getting more people using their platforms and social media to have something meaningful to say or to rally people around a common good cause. You know what I'm saying? For the betterment of the community or the world or whatever. But back when I made that statement was at a time when all people would really put up on social media was just kind of just whatever kind of shit. And it wasn't anything geared towards uplifting the community or presenting more positive images that come from the community to where everybody, outside of the community will think this is just a regular narrative. It's just black men are always coming out of prison. And whenever black men come out of prison, here we go, celebrating and carrying on and wooing. And yeah, when your homies, I've had plenty of homies that have come home and I've celebrated and we done drank and we done kicked it, gone to the strip club and all of that. But how many times have I gotten the opportunity to present a friend of mine and said, man, he got his PhD at, such and such. Like, there weren't a lot of opportunities to do that. But now that's happening.
Well, and America loves the outlaw.
America loves the outlaw, yeah.
And he beat a murder case.
He did.
And I've interviewed him a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. He was, I guess, in Louisiana, when you're facing a murder case, it's one of the few places where they actually put you on death row.
No, that's real shit.
Yeah. He was facing a needle.
No, he was
and
he was
he
dealing
beat
with
it.
Real shit. He did.
So if you talk about America with the dirty system that you have, with black men going to prison when they did nothing.
Yeah.
Someone actually beating the system.
Yeah.
Someone who people look up to and who love their music.
That's actually a valid point.
People aren't just celebrating, a guy got out of prison. It's like, this guy actually beat the system, and this guy actually fought back and had the money to not, be killed by the U.S. government by something he may not have done.
You know what, Vlad? I'm glad that you brought that up, and I'm glad that you even presented that perspective.
Yeah.
Because now looking back in retrospect at that time, I didn't look at it like that.
Yeah.
I just saw it as something that I felt the community, we needed to just kind of begin to think different in a lot of different ways. And what I honestly do regret out of that was the fact that I didn't word it. And that's why I take so much time now when I'm posting something, even if it's like a lengthy caption. I make sure that I detail specifically where I'm coming from and what I mean, because that statement that I made in no way was it to downgrade or to shit on Boosie in any kind of way. Because like I said, I'm a fan of his work. Like, I listen to Boosie shit, and that's what was so fucking crazy. I'm like, God damn, I just got through listening to this nigga shit. Like, now everybody's trying to make it seem like I'm a Boosie hater. So, no, I'm glad that you brought that up, because this is giving me the opportunity to clarify with people. Man, that shit had nothing to do with Boosie. Like, it had to do with me saying to the community, look, y'all, like, let's make more of a conscious effort to produce or to not only share stories like that, but let's share more stories of us graduating and, opening up companies, ownership, things that you see now, especially after Nip's death. You see people reposting the principles of Nipsey Hussle. You see people reposting more stories and imagery regarding black businesses and more progressive things. But back then it just wasn't like that. So for anybody that was offended, I apologize. And even to the homie Boosie, like, I hope you wasn't, dog, because that shit wasn't directed towards you. But if you were, I sincerely apologize, and I want to let you know I'm a huge fan of your work. And if we ever run into each other in Alpharetta, Georgia, goddamn it, let's have a drink, man.
Well, Boosie definitely watches VladTV.
Cool. Well, Boosie.
100%.
Well, Boosie, let's have a drink. When I get back home to Atlanta, let's have a drink, because I fuck with you.
Yeah.
Love your music, and, Yeah, he lives in Atlanta.
Yeah, he lives in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And, I think the thing that Boosie symbolizes, to the black community is that, we talked about this in our interview, that he was prepared to die for his principles. He was prepared to die in prison and be on every project mural. At any point, did they say, listen, we know that you probably know some things. Why don't you just give us some other names? Tell us about some other illegal activities, and we'll take this death sentence off the plate. Did they ever offer you a deal like that?
Nah, they basically. When I went in there, I was just like, I want my lawyer. You know, they was talking, we got you on 8 murders and all this shit. You know, I want my lawyer, period. You know what I'm saying? They came at me with some shit one time about Mel and T. You know, I told them, suck my dick. Suck my dick. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, my CEOs beat them on a murder charge, too. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, they was after us, Vlad. They was after me, but, you know, I knew they ain't had shit on me. But, you know, I'm staying silent. I wouldn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? I was gonna go to that motherfucker. I was gonna go to that motherfucking death row chair, a motherfucking hero. That's why I was gonna go to that motherfucking hero to all the real niggas in the world. I was gonna go down that bitch a hero. I was gonna be on every project wall in the motherfucking world because I stayed silent.
That's real.
You fast forward to 2019, and Tekashi is on the stand, telling on all his homies,
telling everything,
dragging in rappers, like
he telling everything.
I mean, so far, I think we're on day 3 of the trial. He has dragged in Trippie Redd, Casanova 2 times.
What?
And Jim Jones have all been named as gang members by Tekashi on the stand.
Yo!
For permanent record to be used against them in future cases, possibly.
See, I didn't know he had put Jim and Casanova and all them out there like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's dragging all of them, and he's calling all of them gang members, including what set they're with.
What?
And as well as the people who he hired to put a hit on Chief Keef. He's naming all of them. He's pointing them out in court and so forth. And I think that's why people love Boosie so much, is that he would never do that even if he was going to die.
That's true. Look, Boosie trill, because I know a few people in Baton Rouge that know him. And it's all stand-up A1 street credentials. So, he's on it. Look, and he's of that code, too. Guys that are really from the street, who have been a part of that life, that know that, the real ones, they don't cross that line. And they recognize that if they get caught, or if there's some consequences that they're going to have to face, then they're going to face them.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, gentlemen like Boosie and others who haven't folded, that's why they are celebrated the way that they are. So that's respect. That's definitely respect all day. And if you can too, dog, man, you should put us together, because I'd actually like to meet him, because I think he cool.
I'll work on it.
Yeah,
I'll
appreciate
work on
that.
it. That's what it is. Jason Weaver, man. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, man.
Congrats on, your iconic roles.
Thank you, man.
Because people get roles, and people are in movies and TV shows and so forth, but I think that you've been in iconic projects and played key roles in those projects. And I
really
think that's
appreciate
the
that.
important part when you look at Jason Weaver's career.
No, thank you so much, Vlad. And I really, again, I appreciate you for giving me this opportunity, to build with you, to connect with your audience, and just everybody out there that, is fans of VladTV, and those who are familiar with my career and have been supporting me. Man, thank you guys like so much from the bottom of my heart, man. This has been a blessing throughout the years to be able to entertain you guys, and to be able to share what God has blessed with me as far as my talents with y'all, and all the support that I get, whether you guys hit me on Instagram or Twitter, which, by the way, it's Jason Weaver, hit me up. Man, I read it all, and I receive it all, man, because it's mostly nothing but positive energy. So, man, thank you guys. Vlad, keep doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Fuck the haters. Fuck the haters, because honestly, we see what you're out here doing, and I respect the fact that you're giving so many artists and so many people that do deserve recognition and do deserve to get their names and their projects and their work out there. You give these people legitimate platform at the very beginning to do that. So, respect for you, and you give guys like me, veterans, a chance to reconnect, you know what I'm saying, with my people. So, nah, man, salute to you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. And what people don't see is that, we never mentioned this specifically, but there are so many times that we do interviews with somebody, and then, we literally get booking requests, email to us that we forward over to them.
Got you.
And they would hit us up and say, yo, I got this role, or I'm going on this tour, and my bookings have gone up and stuff like that because of this VladTV interview and how big it's gotten. So that's the whole thing. Like, behind the scenes, we really help out a lot of people.
No,
And-
you do, man. Like, look,
Yeah.
and I'm here to tell you. That's why I said, like, fuck the haters. You know you're doing something right when
Yeah.
people don't want to give you the credit. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, you know you're doing your job when you're doing like a lot of the work and it's impactful, and you can see where it's making a difference in people's lives. And no, I give you a lot of credit for that, man. So again, just keep doing what you're doing, and don't look back. And I look forward to hopefully, coming back more in the future. Because when the show premieres, the animated show that I'm producing now, when that eventually premieres, I want to come back and talk about that because I'm working with Lena Waithe on that.
Okay.
And my man Joshua Leonard from Leonard Studios, who created the project I'm currently working on, Team Supreme. So yeah, when the closer we get to that date when it's released, I'd love to come back and talk with you more about it and things I'm doing in the future, man.
I'm down, man. Can't
All right.
wait.
Word.
That's what it is.
Thank you,
Until
Vlad.
next time. Peace.
Peace.